Lena Marlowe, 32, a folklorist researching dying rural rituals and local legends. She's calm, methodical, and skeptical until Birchwood starts pulling at something personal she didn't know she had buried. Title: Beneath the Moonlit Veil, the sinister chronicles of Birchwood didn't show up on most maps. The roads that led there narrowed too quickly. The signs became too vague. And the forest, with its silvery birch trees and knotted roots, always looked like it was waiting for someone to stray off trail. Lena Marlowe hadn't been back in over 20 years. Not since her mother vanished during a stormy autumn night. A night the locals later referred to, almost reverently, as a veil night. She was 9 when it happened. Now she was back, older, colder, but not ready for what Birchwood had become. The town was quiet, too quiet, no gas station, no police outpost, just a church, a general store, and a weathered inn, run by a woman who recognized Lena instantly, but said nothing about her return. Only this: "You came back on a full moon. Best stay inside after sundown." Her room overlooked the lake, the same lake her mother used to take her to before everything changed. That first night, Lena walked the shore. No one else was out. Then she saw it, across the water, near the far woods, a shape, still draped in white. It stood at the tree line, facing the lake. When Lena blinked, it was gone. Only the water rippled softly, like something had just stepped in or out. Later that night, the town bells rang once, just after midnight. No reason, no wind. No one else seemed to hear it. And on her windowsill, laid carefully, like an offering, a single birch leaf, stained with blood. Lena held the blood-stained birch leaf in her hand for a long time before wrapping it in tissue and slipping it into her notebook. The town was asleep, no lights, no sounds, just the faint whisper of the wind. Too rhythmic, too even, like breathing. The next morning, she went to the town's archive. It was a single room in the back of the church, dusty, quiet, and clearly untouched for years. She asked about Veil Night. The priest, Father Rourke, paused, his pen freezing in mid-signature. "We don't celebrate that anymore," he said flatly. "But you used to," Lena pressed. "It's older than the church, isn't it?" He looked her dead in the eyes. Veil Night was never a celebration. It was a containment. Before she could ask more, he closed the register and stood. "That part of Birchwood history is over. Let it stay buried." She didn't. Back at the inn, she dug through microfilm scans she'd copied before arriving. Fragments of old letters and news clippings tied to Birchwood. One line, from a diary dated 1884, stood out. "When the moon is full and the veil is thin, we offer one to the woods, lest the woods take more." Another line, scribbled in the margin: "They never take the willing." That night, just after sundown, she saw movement outside her window again. Not a shape this time, a line of people, walking silently toward the lake, each draped in pale fabric, like baptism robes. No lights, no voices. Lena grabbed her coat and followed. At the shoreline, they gathered in a half circle, facing the water. One person stood at the center, younger, trembling, a girl no older than 18. The others began to hum, low, steady. The lake stirred, and then without warning, the girl stepped forward. Into the water, not struggling, not panicking, just walking until she disappeared beneath the surface. The hum stopped. The figures turned and walked back into the woods like nothing had happened. Lena stood frozen on the hill above, heart pounding. And then a voice behind her said softly, "Your mother walked the same path." She turned. It was the innkeeper. She looked even older in the moonlight, and her voice was calm. They told her she was chosen. They always choose those with old blood, like yours. Lena's mouth was dry. My mother wasn't chosen. She disappeared. The innkeeper tilted her head slightly. They call it choosing because it sounds kinder. Lena took a step back. What is Veil Night? The woman didn't answer. She just said, you should ask what's beneath the lake. The next day, Lena returned to the shoreline. She traced the steps the girl had taken. The water was calm again, unnaturally still. She pulled out her phone and checked the satellite view. But the lake distorted everything, like a dead zone on the map. No data, no structure beneath, just void. She made a decision. She was going in. She borrowed a rowboat from behind the church boathouse and paddled toward the middle of the lake, where the girl had vanished. Halfway out, her oar caught on something just beneath the surface. Not solid, not tangled. It moved. She leaned over, looked down, and saw them. Faces, pale, suspended just below the surface. Eyes open, watching, unmoving. Dozens of them, some old, some young, floating inches from the surface like they'd just been waiting for someone to look. Her mother was one of them. Eyes locked with hers, and then, like the surface of the water had just taken a breath, the image was gone. That night, Lena dreamed of walking into the lake, but in the dream it was dry. The water drained away to reveal a pit lined with stone and bone, as if the town had built birchwood on top of something ancient. At the center of the pit, a stone altar, and on it, a symbol she'd seen in her father's old notebooks. A half moon over an open eye. The veil is not the night, a voice whispered in the dream. The veil is you. She woke with a gasp. There was water on her bedroom floor, her shoes, wet, and on the wall, drawn in dripping lines of lake mud. You belong to the old blood. You remember. That's enough. Lena didn't sleep the next night. She watched the door, the window, her reflection. She was starting to feel fractured, like there were two of her. One asking questions, and one remembering things she never lived. She returned to the church. Father Rourke wasn't there, but his ledger was open on the altar. At the top of the page, Veil Night, Full Moon Cycle. Beneath it, a list of names, some crossed out, most recent, M. Collins, the girl from the lake, and below that, L. Marlowe. Her hand trembled as she flipped back through the older pages. One name appeared again and again, her mother's, E. Marlowe, noted beside multiple Veil Night entries. Once in 1979, again in 1985, and in 1999, the year she vanished. This wasn't a single ritual, it was a cycle. Every full moon, every generation, always someone chosen from a bloodline that remembered. As Lena left the church, she saw the townspeople moving again. Slow, controlled, every face pale, indifferent. They weren't individuals anymore. They were part of something. And then, standing in the road ahead, was her mother, dry, alive, looking exactly as she had in the water, unchanged. Lena, she said, you're not here to stop this. You're here to finish it. Her mother explained the truth. Birchwood made a deal a long time ago. The lake feeds on silence, and in return, the town is spared. No disease, no crime, no rot. As long as the bloodlines keep remembering and keep giving something back. Lena didn't speak, she just followed. Back to the lake, back to the circle. The altar stood above the water now, exposed in the moonlight, And all around it, those same white-cloaked figures, waiting. The innkeeper stepped forward, handed her the same birch leaf, this time pure, white, unmarked. "You can take her place," she said softly. "Or you can give them something greater." Lena looked out at the water, saw her reflection ripple, but her shadow? It stayed still. Then it turned toward the forest and walked away from her. Not cast, not connected, just moving on its own. The altar stood silent in the center of the lake. Moonlight reflected off the water like glass, casting long, pale silhouettes of the townsfolk as they waited, unmoving, half shadow, half human. Lena's mother stood beside her, face unreadable. "You were never meant to leave, Lena," she said. "You were meant to forget, like they all did." "But I didn't," Lena replied. "I remembered. That's why you were chosen." Lena stepped forward. The crowd parted. No one stopped her as she walked onto the stone altar. The water around it began to churn, slowly at first, then violently. The surface cracked like ice from beneath. She turned to them all, the innkeeper, the townspeople, her mother, and raised the white birch leaf above her head. "I won't carry your silence." She dropped the leaf. It never hit the stone. It floated, then burned in midair, dissolving into white ash. The lake went still. Then the voices came. Hundreds of them, crying, laughing, screaming. The lake remembered every name, every offering, every sin buried beneath moonlight and ritual. The shadows broke free. Some ran into the woods, some collapsed into the earth, and some just stood and stared before fading like mist. The townspeople fell to their knees. Some sobbed, some simply disappeared. The altar cracked down the center. And her mother? She smiled once gently. "Now you know what we really are." Then she stepped backward and vanished into the water. Weeks later, Birchwood was found abandoned. No signs of violence. No remains, just fog, lake water stains, and the sound of wind through birch trees. The only clue? A notebook left on the altar, damp but intact. Lena's, open to the last page, scrawled in red ink. "I wasn't the offering. I was the memory, and that was always what the lake wanted most." You've been listening to Haunted Chronicles. If you hear music in the woods, don't follow it. Some legends don't fade. They just wait for someone new to believe in them. Subscribe for more true-feeling horror stories that never stay buried. Like, share, and remember, if you find Ravenwood, you were never supposed to leave. Haunted Chronicles, where every echo might be someone still trapped inside.